So, Sir Jim Ratcliffe, the part owner and the head of footballing operations at Manchester United, gave a very, very interesting interview for BBC Sport yesterday. This was released quite recently. I heard about this on the radio, this interview last night, and I wanted to do a video just going over what's been said, because it's been quite surprising, some of the stuff that Ratcliffe has said. Not because it's really, yielded many big revelations aside from the financial aspect of things, which is, by the sounds of things, more dire than we even feared it was, but also just in how honest he's been, how much he's just basically said, you know what, this is how it is. And a lot of Man United fans will probably agree with what he's saying to an extent. So shout out to Dan Roan, the sports editor of the BBC, for conducting this interview. And just, shedding the light on a situation that a lot of Man United fans, I think, will at least in part agree and empathise with. But let's have a look at what's been said here, guys. Full article on the BBC Sport. Some Manchester United players are not good enough and some are overpaid, the club's co-owner Sir Jim Ratcliffe says. Midfielder Casemiro, strikers Rasmus Højlund, goalkeeper Andre Onana and wingers Anthony and Jadon Sancho, who are all on loan over clubs, were name-checked by the billionaire in an interview with BBC Sport as his players' regime had inherited. Ratcliffe, who is a lifelong Manchester United fan, is the chairman of petrochemicals company Ineos, which has a strong sports investment arm. The 72-year-old last spent £1.3 billion for a 28.94% stake in the club in a deal which saw Ineos take control of footballing operations at Manchester United. In a wide-ranging interview, Ratcliffe addressed the side's recent struggles on the pitch. They are 14th in the Premier League table, and repeated a pledge to deliver silverware by 2028, which of course is the club's 150th anniversary. They want to win the Premier League in 27-28. It's a big goal. It's a big goal as things are right now. And this interview was conducted a day after the fans protested against United's ownership on Sunday. He also spoke of the club's financial difficulties, saying it was set to run out of money by the end of the year without taking the actions that he admitted were unpopular, of course referring to the redundancies there. So, some players are not good enough and probably overpaid. This is 100% something that Man United fans will agree with. Ratcliffe lamented the fact that the club still had payments owed on players signed before he took control, citing what he said was a £17 million payment still to be made for Sancho this summer. The English winger was signed for a £73 million sum from Borussia Dortmund in 2021, but returned to the German club on loan after falling out with United boss Ten Hag, and was loaned to Chelsea at the start of the current season. If you look at the players we are buying this summer that we didn't buy, we're buying Anthony, we're buying Casemiro, we're buying Onana, we're buying Højlund, we're buying Sancho. These are all things from the past, whether we like it or not. We've inherited those things and we have to sort that out. So for those that don't know, when you sign a football player, most of the time these days it's not done in one big lump sum. It's usually done in installments paid out during the duration of the player's original contract. So if a player signs for £50 million, for example, on a 5-year deal, then the club that has signed that player will typically pay £5-10 million installments over the next 5 seasons. That's kind of what happens. For Sancho, who now plays for Chelsea, and we pay half for his wages, we're paying £17 million to buy him in the summer, effectively, yeah. Brazilian winger Anthony is another loan out at Spanish club Real Betis after struggling at Old Trafford following an £81.5 million move from Ajax. Compatriot Casemiro arrived in 2022 in a £70 million deal, while Danish striker Højlund arrived the following year for £72 million. Cameroon international Andre Onana joined the club in the same summer for £47.2 million. All of those players have drawn criticism during their time at the club. It'd be hard to find a player who hasn't, to be honest with you, during that. It takes us time for us to move away from the past and into a new place in the future, Ratcliffe said. When asked whether he was suggesting those players were not good enough for Manchester United, he said, some are not good enough and some are probably overpaid, but for us to mould a squad in the way we are fully responsible for and accountable for, this will take time. We've got this period of transformation where we move from the past to the future. There are some great players in the squad, as we know. The captain is a fabulous footballer. We definitely need Bruno. He's a fantastic footballer. Amorim very much as well has praised Bruno, saying they need more Brunos in their squad. And speaking of praising Portuguese people, Ratcliffe has definitely praised Ruben Amorim since he has come in, and saying that he's going to be there for a long time, which, again, I think Man United fans will probably like the commitment. It's just the short term right now is difficult, to say the least. Yeah, Ratcliffe basically saying that Amram's going to be there for a good number of years. I'm not going to read the whole interview because it'll take us a very long time, but this is an interesting bit here as well. The club was going to run out of money before Christmas if it didn't make those changes. So again, the redundancies, the 500 of redundancies in total or whatever it is, very, very unpopular, understandably so. But Ratcliffe is basically saying they had to do it. Let's have a look. When Ratcliffe and Ineos joined the Old Trafford hierarchy, many fans welcomed the arrival of a boyhood fan and billionaire to help restore the club's former glories. However, a year on, the relationship with some supporters has soured. A mid-season rise in some ticket prices affecting the under-16s and pensioners, and hundreds of redundancies are among the moves taken by the club which have attracted criticism, with cost-cutting measures including the removal of free lunches for staff. Ratcliffe admitted he knew moving the club would have challenges, but the scale of it is probably slightly bigger than he expected. I don't enjoy reading newspapers very much these days, I have to say, he added. I know it's unpopular and the period of change is uncomfortable for people, and some of the decisions we have to make are unpleasant, but they are necessary to put Manchester United back onto a stable footing. If people want to see Man United winning trophies again, then we have to do all this stuff. I recognise I'm unpopular at the moment, but I am prepared to be, and I can deal with being unpopular for a period of time because I believe that we are doing the right thing. Man United has come off the rails. We need to get back onto the rails, and I believe what we're doing will put it back on the rails and will finish up being where Liverpool or Real Madrid are today in the future. When the going gets tough, people need to show a bit of resilience, a bit of don't, and come out the other side fighting, and that's what we need to do. And he revealed just how stark the financial situation at the club has been. Man United would have run out of cash by the end of this year, by the end of 2025, after me putting $300 million, £232 million in, and if we buy no new players in the summer. We are in the process of change, and it's an uncomfortable period and disruptive. I do feel sympathy with the fans. The simple answer is the club runs out of money in Christmas if we don't do these things. He said costs had risen and the club had been spending more than it had earned for 7 seasons. If you spend more than you earn, eventually that's the road to ruin, he said. It was suggested to Ratcliffe that the club's level of serving that debt in the last financial year, £37 million was paid in interest, was a more pressing issue for fans. Interest is one of those costs, but it isn't the biggest cost in this club, he said. And the club needs to get its house back in order so it's on good financial footing for the future. Most clubs in the UK, most companies have debt of some form, but if the club is really profitable, which I think it will be in years to come, then you can do the reverse. You can start paying down the debt. That's where I think Manchester United should be. Ultimately, if you look at the club of the size of Manchester United with an income of about £650 million, you spend a part of that £650 million on operating the club and a part on the squad. Where do you want to spend the money? Do you want to spend it on operating the club, or do you want to spend it on the squad? Because if you spend it on the squad, you better get results. And at the end of the day, what's Manchester United for if it's not to win trophies and silverware? What we do is invest in the best players in the world if we can, rather than spend it on, I'm afraid, free lunches. My only interest here is returning Manchester United to the greatness again. He also said financial pressures on Ineos, which led to the ending of a sponsorship deal with New Zealand All Blacks, would not impact Manchester United. Yeah, rumours about them leaving the Mercedes Formula 1 team as well. But he does seem committed to Man United. Yeah, a long interview. Go watch it on BBC if you want to see the full thing. Like I said, there's a lot of interesting stuff there. I do not have the time to go through all of it. I just thought I'd go with those main highlights though, in terms of him backing Ruben Amorim, in terms of the finances there too, in terms of the players just not being good enough or overpaid in his eyes. Decide who you want to fit into either of those descriptions. I reckon there'll be some players that would fit very much nicely in the middle of that Venn diagram. Overpaid and not very good. But yeah, interesting stuff. I find it very hard to legitimize the amounts of redundancies that he's put up still, because at the end of the day, I know what he's saying. You want the club to prosper and get back to where it was before and do well on the pitch, so you want to prioritize spending money on the playing squad over other things operationally wise. I do get that, but this is also a lot of people's lives here. This is hundreds of people's lives, and they've lost their job, and for me that is so hard to forgive and impossible to overlook, and I think most people would agree with that. But it's we'll have to see if it yields results, because right now it isn't, and that is why it stings so much. The fact that they're doing all this stuff, and on the pitch they suck. They're doing so bad. They might well win the Europa League this season, but aside from that, this season has been terrible for them. It's been an awful slog, especially in the Premier League. 14th in the Premier League, Man United. You know, if the bottom three were not so bad, they would genuinely be in a relegation scrap now. Who would have thought that was possible? I didn't. I genuinely did not think they'd ever be in a relegation scrap, and I think in most of the seasons, with how they've performed, they'd be on the cusp, but it's only because those bottom three sides are so bad this season. But yeah, your thoughts in the comments below, guys. Do you empathise and sympathise with Sir Jim Ratcliffe a bit after hearing this, or do you think, you know what, no, I don't agree with this, he shouldn't have done what he's done, and I still don't like him? I want to hear what you have to say in the comments below. Like, share, comment, subscribe as always, and we'll see you soon for some more football content on the Football Chronicle very soon.